Well, hello class. In this video I'm going to actually start drawing the elevation. We had a couple videos about setting up your plans sort of in this format. Here's our original. Those are going to be what you printed out. Here's just a setup for the elevation, and we talked about layers, but let's get started by drawing. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the ground plane, and that can really be drawn anywhere. I just want to be below the house somewhere, and I'm just going to start line and draw horizontally across. I want to give myself some space because I want to give myself to build up the elevation and be able to print this without getting the floor plan in the viewport. If that happens, you can always move one or the other. It's not a big issue, but strategically set it up like this. Now the reason why we set our plans up like this is so we can draw lines straight down or guide lines straight down to be able to make sure without having to know dimensions at all that our house works. Now there are different ways of doing this, and I know that. I'm just going to stick to using lines and guidelines that to draw this just to keep things easy. So I'm going to hit line, for example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this front wall, this front sort of plane here first, and then maybe this back plane in the porch in this video, or I might skip some steps. We'll see how it goes depending on how it's going. Anyway, so I'm going to go to line in AutoCad. And I'm going to select the corner of my house. You can zoom in if you need to zoom in a little bit. And I'm just going to draw a line straight down, right? And make sure I have perpendicular snap on so I can snap perpendicularly. That's right here. If you don't have it on, boom, there. I use it in all my videos. So now I've got that aligned. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. I'm going to grab that line and I'm going to zoom into this corner and pull straight down. And now I know, without even knowing what the width of this wall, this face of the building is, I know I have it correctly matching the first floor plan. Now I'm going to work on heights later on, so I'm not worried about this. Obviously I'm going to trim these lines up and do other such things and layers, but we'll get to that. At the same time, I also know I have this edge in the background. For now, I know I'm just using the same line weight, the same layer. I'll worry about layers here in a minute and along each step. But there we go. Now I know I've got that width set up correctly, and we also have this wall over on this side, so I can hit line again, and I can draw a line from this corner. I can do the edge of the porch if I wanted to, because it's all aligned, and I've got that line perpendicular snap to that line, and then so this is the width of the entire house. Now the roof does overhang a bit. I'm going to get to roof in a different video because there's several things we need to cover there, but that's sort of the width of the house. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to think about heights. So just to start laying this out. So if I look at this, we can see that the porch comes up 1 foot 1 from the ground line. So I can offset 1 foot 1, 1 foot 1, enter, and I'm going to click this line and click it up. Now I'm going to trim this down because this ground line does need to extend past. Arguably I've extended it too far past. I wasn't sure how much to do it, but the viewport can take care of the extra length if you want, or you can just shrink it up. But certainly the porch I want to trim up. So I'm going to hit trim and hit enter to make everything a trim line. And I can trim that down. I can trim that down. In fact, some of these lines in here I don't even need because the porch just covers up all of that area. So I'm going to trim that right away. And then if we look on our drawing, we see this dotted line here, and it is 10 foot 1, 4 inches up from the porch. That's actually the second floor level. That's what we're seeing there. So so we need to do that. So it's 10 foot 1 1/4. So I'm going to go to offset again and go 10 foot 1. And since it's a quarter, I'm going to do 0.25 because 0.25 is the same as a quarter, and hit enter. And I'll offset that. Again, we'll make this a dotted line in a minute. I'm drawing everything on a single layer just for a few minutes just to get this all set up and done. And then I'm going to just mark this line across, which would be the top of the roof edge and the top of the second floor. And so that is 18.6 up from the porch. So go offset 18 foot 6. Enter. And I have that up there. And although I'll probably have to make some adjustments as I go just to start cleaning things up, I just might trim and fillet these things together. So I'm going to go to fillet here, fillet that side to there, and this side to here. And I'm going to trim up these lines. So I'm going to go trim. I'm going to select this line and hit enter just to get a trimming line. Otherwise you'll have extra lines up above, which isn't much of a problem because you'll never really see it, but just keep my drawing a little cleaner. And so I sort of have a blocky version of what the house is right now without the roof. But before I moving on, let's talk about layers. So I know this wants to be the thickest because it's cut through, so I'm going to put this one on color 5 and make it nice and thick. And then sort of the things that are most out front in the edges I'm going to put on the next line way down, so that's going to include the porch. And we have to remember, even though these are the edges out here really in depth, this area is pushed back and this area is pushed back, so those want to be lighter. So the front edge of the house is actually between these two lines, so that's I also want on a thicker layer, so I'll put that on there. Now to make this line, I'm going to want to get that on a dotted line here. The layer stands we're using don't have a color set up for dotted lines, so I'm going to cheat a little bit. I typically wouldn't do it this way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on color 1 or color 2 to make it thin, and I'm going to come over to my properties and change just this and go to, let's see if there's one loaded in here. I think so because we used one before, and go to dash. And that looks like a good enough property, so I'm not going to worry about it. There we go. That's how you can make it a dotted line. And then what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to continue to draw the porch because it's really just more of the same. I'm just going to draw straight down from the top to get things like the columns and the roof and all these things. If you are comfortable with that, go ahead. You can sort of skip through some of these things. That said, some of the more complicated things like roofs and windows and things of that nature, and certainly the notes, I'm going to do in a follow-up video. But I'll just, for the sake of this first elevation, if you do want to see step by step, I'll continue to keep drawing the porch right here in this video. So next thing I'm going to do is the columns of the porch. And to do that, I'll just pan up to the video. And sometimes if I'm drawing a lot of things like this, what I'll do is a shortcut. So I'm just going to draw a little bit of lines. I'm going to come down and draw a line. And I'm going to copy this line from one side of that column to the other side and hit enter to end copy. Then I'm going to start copy again. You could draw a bunch of lines. You don't have to do it this way. Just to get that, because I know all the columns are the same size. So I'm going to just put some lines that way, put some column lines there, put some column lines here, put some column lines there, and I'm going to move these all down to my field. So I'm going to move, enter, and move this straight down, perpendicular snap. And of course, actually, these are all really pretty much as close as you can get. So I'm going to match properties to the blue line to make all of these also blue. They're all edges if you think about it. So that'll sort of make sense. So there we set up the column line, and we also know from the drawing that the bottom of the roof edge is 8'6" off the top of the porch. So why don't I do an offset there? Offset 8'6", enter. It's going to be the top of the porch. We can also draw from the plan or from the known dimension. Well, before I do that, we have to extend these columns up to that line, because I just drew an estimated line and that's perfectly fine. So I'm going to come up to here, click the little arrow, hit extend, and hit enter to make everything an extension point, and just click on all these columns. You can use window to make these faster ones if you have a clear spot to make the window for a selection set. And then there you go, there's the columns. This roof has overhang. That's what I was about to start to say. I sort of know the number, but if you don't, again, you can come to here, and that's where you can use the second floor plan, right? Because here's the roof edge. So I can draw a line here and select here, and I can draw a line down, and I can do the same thing. I can either copy this line, or I can start a new line and click on the edge and pull down over on that side. We can see that the back part of the house does overhang the porch in that way. So now I can fillet these edges together. Do a little fillet there. Do a little fillet here. And one of the things that's not on here is how thick this edge of the roof is, and it's going to be 8 inches. So I'm going to go offset 8, enter, and offset that up, and I'm going to fill it these edges because that's all I need. I just need this little space. I just had to draw all the way down from the second floor. I'm going to fill it this guy to that guy and do the same thing. Fill it this guy to this guy, and I will match properties because their layers are on the wrong layer. So match properties, select what I like, this window around that edge, get that edge over here, and I'll draw the roof top of this edge here. It's going to come up, and so I'm going to actually need the second. Let's see, where is it going? It's going to this point here. I guess that's just this line. So I need how high that roof is going. Well, it's going 312, so we're going to have to do a little bit of slope work here. We know the roof is 3/12. We know where it starts, and we sort of know where it stops. Actually, this is interesting because these two things, this is actually not drawn correctly quite, because this edge is different than that edge, and using 312 and 312 is not going to get the same geometries. So I'm going to start from this side, because I think that's what it looks like it's done. So to get the slope, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by drawing a line. And I'm going to go over 12 inches, just straight over, and then straight up 3 inches. And then I can connect those 2 points to make a little triangle just like that. Now this slope is the slope of that roof. So I no longer need the 3 and the 12, so I'm going to erase that. Select, enter. And I'm going to move this line right in place. I'm going to go move, select that line, hit enter, select the bottom edge, snap to that edge right there. And I know this line goes, it meets at the edge of this building here. So I'm just going to extend, hit enter to make everything extension point, and click the line, in this case twice, to make it go up. And that's how high I know it is, right? So that's the edge of the roof. I can match properties to make it the roof color that way, and then I can draw straight across. What's going to happen when I finish this geometry here is, in theory, according to the plan, the roof edge really does this and comes down here. This is how I think it should be drawn, even though it's not shown that way in your example. Maybe I'll make that correction so the one that's re-uploaded is corrected, but it's going to make this not 312. And I think that's okay. Although I guess I mean, it's going to be one or the other. You're either going to have it at the edge or you're not going to have it at the edge. So we're going to do this way. Yeah, let's do it. I'll match it. I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm indecisive sometimes. If I don't want that to be that geometry, the way that it was shown in the example, how you accomplish that is you go to mirror. Because I don't need to redraw the lines, I can just hit mirror, hit enter, hit the center point of this right there, hit enter, and we can see where these two things cross is the edge of that roof there. So I can fill that together now, or trim it out, or however you want to do it. Trim that out, and then match properties to get it all on this. I should have just changed my layer temporarily to this blue layer, since that's all what I'm using for the most part. Now the thing, of course, these lines, you don't see, this roof is blocking them out. Down here you see them because the porch is clear. Up here the roof blocks them out. So I'm going to use trim, and I'm going to, oops, sorry, that was extend. So I'm going to hit the arrow, go to trim, hit enter, and I'll go ahead and trim that out, trim that out, trim that out. We don't need that line anymore. Trim this out, trim this out, and trim this out. We don't need that anymore. And you've got a lot of this drawn here. The last thing I think for the porch, at least the front area of the porch, is the stair. So I might just draw a line here, straight down, and hit enter. Now one of the other things I did notice as I was looking at this, in plan we have this as 2 stairs. In elevation we have 1. And that's something that in theory should be corrected, but when you're only up 1 foot 1 inch, you only need 1 stair. So I'm just going to trim those lines off, then draw another line from the midpoint to get that stair that's shown in elevation, and trim this out like this, and trim this out like that, because that's just, it seems like it'd be a freestanding stair. But again, this stair is very close to us. So let's match properties. Let's select this and select all of that, and we'll get the stair. Now if we notice in the thing, there seems to be a little detail at the stair level. I actually don't think you can really see it without super zooming in, and I think it's over detailed compared to a lot of the other stuff. So I'm going to just leave my stair just like that, just as a rectangle and this is sort of the front of the building is drawn. I think that's definitely long enough for this video, so I will do another video. I think in the next video I'll show how to do the roof angles, sort of very similar to how I did the porch angles. There's a little trick you're going to have to do for the side, and then I'll show windows, and then maybe the last remaining details there, just for all the components. Of course, I'll go into the notes and everything and setting up the sheet as well. But I think it's a good point to stop this video. So I'll see you in the next one.